Hi, welcome to Media Psyche, a podcast where we talk about psychology and our favorite pieces of media. My name is Chi,
And I'm Ro.
and today we will be talking about two main movies, Parasite and As You Are.
Okay, so the first movie, Parasite, that we're going to be talking about is a 2019 South Korean comedy thriller film which explores how a poor family infiltrates the life of a wealthy family in hopes of gaining social mobility. And I think while watching this film, one thing I found super interesting was the moral compass of the quote unquote poor family throughout the entire film. So when we actually analyze their behavior and look at how they behave throughout the entire film, I feel that it's quite conflicting, their actions. There are times where you question, okay, because they come from such a background and because they are struggling to meet their own basic needs, obviously they will be driven to desperation to do some of the things that they do, and they'll infiltrate the wealthy life of the parks. But at the same time, it's where is their moral compass? Where do they draw the line? And throughout the entire film, the line between the two families are constantly very blurred. And, this leads to a lot of cognitive dissonance where they experience psychological discomfort because they themselves are holding the contradictory beliefs and values that they are manipulating the parks into getting what they want, but at the same time, they're doing it for their survival. So that's one thing I found quite interesting about the film.
All right, and our next film is As You Are, which is a 2016 drama mystery film, which follows three main protagonists, Mark, Sarah, and Jack, as they navigate through their adolescence as a police investigation prompts desperate, desperate memories. And I just found this film extremely devastating and how it just explores like being gay while like not while like raised in a family or just like a world that doesn't accept who you are and just being like just feeling like an imposter while also having to be like the bigger person at the same time. And I think Mark and Jack's experience was the most devastating out of the whole movie. And I feel like Mark definitely, I feel like the director definitely explored the feeling of imposter syndrome through Mark's character. And I feel like Jack's experience seeing Mark deal with that just like resembles like the common experience of like seeing like your one of your loved ones like faking themselves, faking who you are, and just being angry about that, but also like wanting to help them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think, like, overall, both films were very, very interesting in terms of their themes. And one thing I also wanted to add on about As You Are as a show, I really felt that the way that they portrayed the relationship between Jack and Mark was very, very intense, but also very interesting. I feel like they have a very codependent relationship, Jack, Mark, and Sarah, to the point where, everything they do is so interconnected and intertwined. Like, they're literally, there are points throughout the film where you're questioning what the actual hell is happening because they're kind of dating each other, then they're like not. And it's very confusing. But at the same time, I feel like because it's so confusing, it's a very accurate depiction of how they're feeling in their teenage adolescence year, and the internal struggle that they're constantly facing between their self identity and not really being understood and being isolated from society because of it.
Yeah, I agree with the statement about like it's like confusing, but it's like also realistic, especially growing up as a teen. I think Mark portrays that really well as like his internal conflict is so scattered, and I think it's like kind of relatable for like a lot of teens. And like there's one scene in particular, which is one of my favorite scenes in that movie, and it's basically like Mark and Jack's mom. Mark's dad and Jack's mom break up, and Mark's living with his dad again, and he starts to hang out with these rugged guys. And I think that's also a metaphor of how like he's trying to surround himself with more masculinity despite being like gay and being gay is not inherently feminine, but like through Mark's eyes and through how he was raised, I feel like he does see it as feminine. So like when he tries to surround himself with masculinity, he's trying to like push away like the feelings within him. and he's with these like rugged personas, and while with these people he sees Jack and Sarah, who are a couple now, and I feel like they only became a couple because they wanted to like fulfill like the hole that Mark left when he like left with his dad, and they're like dating, and Mark sees this and he's like, oh no. And he's like so angry. And like Mark's more focused on Jack, obviously. And Mark, I feel like, in my opinion, he was jealous that Sarah was with Mark and not vice versa. Like he wasn't jealous of Mark. He was jealous of Sarah because he was in the position she's in the position that he's always wanted to be in. And later they leave that area, and then with his friend, with his these masculine figures, they're opening mail, like opening other people's mail, and they come across a sex toy, and they're all tossing it around like it's disgusting. But Mark picks it up with no problem, and then he just smashes a window, like a car window, with it. Like, and I just feel like it's loud, it's getting yourself out, like it's loud, it's angry. And I think it's also a way of like Mark like telling like the world that he's not ashamed of these feelings that we all want him to be. And he just wants to get himself out there more, but he doesn't know how, obviously. So he's gonna turn to violence. And I think it's kind of ironic because the next scene is like the kiss scene between Mark and Jack, and I think that was like pretty good, like storytelling and good decision by the director in that sense.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. Like with the repression of his feelings throughout the entire film. Oh, there was this one scene all the way at the back of the movie, right before, the ending that was obviously crazy and tragic. But the scene where he was like, "I wish you were a girl." Well, that actually like broke me. Like that
Hmm.
drove me to the edge. Like I had to stop and pause the movie. This is such a I don't know, I don't know how to say it, but it's such like a common trope in stuff like fan fictions. But like when you really put it into like a movie with all these intense emotions and like things that you're feeling, seeing it really put into picture really conveyed like how much hatred there was, when saying that. Like not towards Jack or anything, but towards like his own feelings, towards how he's not able to come to, a consensus with his identity. Like I feel for him so much because it must be so confusing to be in such a position where, you don't even know who you are. You know what path you're going on. And life is just filled with so much uncertainty, so much anger, and the fact that, his family situation may not have been the best throughout the entire film, having to deal with all that just led to a lot of pent up emotions and everything bottling up inside of him.
Yeah, I like how like they explore internalized homophobia with Mark, because like yes, I agree with you. Like seeing it like in person, like in front of your face with like real people, compared to like a fanfic, just like hits way harder. And like the fact that Jack is perfect for Mark, but just Mark was just born in a situation that pushes like his feelings away. It's like the phrase like right person, wrong time, kind of, because Jack was the right person. But unfortunately for that time, it was not doing it. And yeah, I think that following to that final scene where I think, in my opinion, Max shot himself because like they were both like high out of their minds. So like we like it's truly we have no idea. Like even Jack doesn't know, the viewer doesn't know who shot Mark, but like I think he shot himself, and I think it conveys the theme that like running away will slowly kill you because Mark was running away from his feelings. Had internalized homophobia. Mark was dealing with imposter syndrome, and running away from these running away from himself literally like killed him in the end.
Okay, wait. I love the way you put it because I think it's so true that repressing your self identity is traumatizing for yourself, and honestly it can lead to such big changes in your life because at the end of the day these parts of your identity play a big role in who you are, and they're just like so significant to you that if you keep running away, if you keep ignoring it, or if you keep trying to change yourself because of it, it's honestly just gonna lead to a lot of self-hatred and love. dissociation from actually who you are. And I feel like this is a theme that can be brought back into Parasite, since we're talking about both movies. Like, I feel like throughout the entire Parasite film, one thing I realized is the Kims are always running away from their original situation. Like, they're trying to change their situation. Maybe it's out of desperation, maybe it's out of their aspiration to do better. But throughout the entire movie, they're constantly running away from what they need to face in life, and what they need to come to terms with is that this is part of their identity. But at the same time, it's so ironic the way they do it, because even though they're trying to climb up the social ladder, gain more social mobility, at times you can see like they're quite lazy in the work they do, and they're not really putting effort in. So for example, right at the start of the movie, they're like folding pizza boxes to get more money, but they're not really trying at all. They're not putting in a lot of effort. They're haphazardly folding it and throwing it aside. And they're even told that this work is not good enough. So I just find it like very ironic that throughout both of the films, the theme is explored, but in like such different ways that our identity plays such a big part of our life.
Oh yeah, and what's it called? I think there's like an additional theme in Parasite that also plays into the like running away from yourself will kill you. Is that like the cycle of poverty that this destroys the dreams of those who have like the dream to escape or like desire to escape? Because like one of the symbolisms in or like the motifs in Parasite is like the viewing stone and how like Kiwoo, like the main son, uses it as like a symbol of hope or like a symbol of like gaining wealth in the future and being like his rich friend who got him like the job as a tutor in the first place. And I think throughout the movie he clings to it a lot and it's just clinging to his aspiration. And I think in the ending when he gave it up and placed it in the river to let it just like like be free. Like I think that's so symbolic of how like he didn't fully give up on his dream. It's just changed, and like he can't just keep running away from his past life, especially with all these like um criminal records like his entire family got. I think he got like fraud and theft and like burglary or something like that. Like he can't run away from that anymore, so he has to face that head on. But he still has like a dream of wealth, not like it's more of a selfless goal instead of a selfish one because he wants to save his father who's trapped in a basement once again, and I think that's the irony of it all.
Like the fact that they ended up where they started is actually like quite crazy. And like the viewing stone, as you mentioned, is such a powerful motif throughout the entire film. Like as you said, it brings about like his hope, but at the end, it's kind of like used against him. Like he got his head smashed by it, which was terrifying to watch, to say the least. But it shows that how your aspirations. He has such big aspirations, but he's like running away or like trying to suppress like a part of him where he needs to face the fact that his current living situation is like this, but he like keeps trying to get out of it. Like in the end, it comes like all hitting back. Like everything that they do throughout the entire film comes back to them in a form of karma, but not really karma. You get me? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so like when you said like karma and stuff like that, um I think they use karma or like they use like a lot of ironic situations
Mm.
to like tell a story throughout the film of Parasite. Like for example, like um so like right after the fight of the two families, the two like the ex-housekeeper and her husband and I think the Kim family, they were like beating each other just trying to be with a goal of being sheltered in the wealth of another family. And I think that's so ironic because they're both in the same situations. Both of them are technically living in a basement and they're fighting instead of helping each other. And I think that's so ironic. And like the scene after that, the scene right after that is the flood scene where the Kim family return to their neighborhood and it's severely flooded, including their semi-basement apartment. And it's just like a harsh reminder of who they are. And it's like something to snap them back from reality after pretending so long and running away from their true selves. And there's a scene in that particular moment within the flood scene, and it's the son Kiwoo. He's staring at the viewing stone, which is submerged in water, and I think it's like a symbolic way of the saying, like he's like staring at it, and it's so symbolic in the way that like it looks like he's reconsidering if this dream is even attainable after what they've sacrificed, and like is it really worth all that they sacrificed. And I think they used the flood scene so good, and like it's the way they use something as mundane as like, oh, like heavy rain as such a destructive force, because a lot of people I know love the heavy rain. It's so relaxing to them. But I know there's people like Kim, the Kim family and Ki Woo, who see it as such a devastating force of nature. And I think they use that irony so well within Parasite.
Yeah, I feel like throughout both of the films, it's confusing because everything is so ironic. Like, you know that something is supposed to go this way, but they're always like tricking you, or not really tricking you, but showing the other side of things. And I think it's very well utilized throughout both of the movies. So in As You Are, we are constantly seeing how he obviously wants, yeah, Mark obviously wants Jack, but at the same time, he's like repressing those feelings. Like, he tells himself that I'm not attracted. Like, especially at, I think you mentioned that gas station scene where
Hmm.
Sarah and Jack showed up, and he was like stunned, but he was acting all cool about it and how he actually wanted Jack. But after that, he actually went on to tell his friends about how much he liked Sarah and how pretty she was, which is like so ironic because he obviously wants Jack, but at the same time he's covering up and he's masking it with the fact that he quote unquote likes Sarah, which he obviously doesn't. He's doing it as like a way to repress himself, and because of heteronormativity in life. But I digress. In Parasite, I feel like irony is shown throughout the films, like from the way the Kim family is constantly doing one thing, but like saying one thing but thinking another, or like throughout the entirety of the film, they're always experiencing cognitive dissonance. And I think the fact that they were fighting with the housekeeper's family in the basement, as you mentioned, that was so crazy. Like, okay, number one, the fight was, I don't even know what to say about the fight. But number two, they really had no real motive as to why they should be fighting. Like, there was no good reason as to why somebody should have gotten seriously injured because of that fight. They're both like living for the same reasons. But from their point of view, if I'm here, I'm the only one who can be here. Like, you all, the rest of you cannot be here. I'm the only one who gets to climb. And I feel like there's like a certain degree of selfishness between both of the films because they're constantly struggling with their own self-identity that causes their mind and world to become warped around themselves. They're not really thinking about other people who might be in the same situation of them as
Hmm.
them. Like Mark, he's thinking about his own self-identity, so he never considers Jack's feelings. Like, he wants Jack when he feels like he wants Jack. When Jack wants him, he's not really there. So I feel like it's just such a saddening thing to see, but it was really like cool to see it interlocked throughout both of the movies.
Yeah, and what you said about how like when Mark wants Jack, but when Jack wants Mark, Mark isn't there. I just think like Mark is just like subconsciously like, well, we already talked about how he's like subconsciously pushing him away through like, internalized
Yeah.
homophobia, but I think it's also a part of like how his father like raised him in a way, because obviously like his father, like we've seen him throughout the film, like he's not the best emotional figure, in the sense that like he's a single father, but he's also like he's angry, he's slightly abusive, and I think having like the only masculine main figure in your life act like that, act emotionally distant, act like emotionally immature, and act abusive, it just like what else do you know except to like do like slightly manipulative things. Like I don't think Mark was manipulative, but I think like unintentionally, like he could come off
Mm-mm.
could come off as that, and I don't think that's entirely his fault. But yeah, I also think that Sarah. might have slightly pitied Mark in a way. And I think Sarah definitely knew about his feelings
Yeah.
with Jack. But I think Sarah was just pitying him and they got together. Because, like, Sarah and Jack only got together to fill the hole that when Mark left. And Mark and Sarah only got together because they were like friends, slightly friends. Well, they were friends. But also, like, Sarah saw the vulnerability in Mark, and Sarah like pitied him in a way. But I think she also wanted to help him, just try to like get over Jack, because I know like Sarah knew like how much it hurt just to have like emotion, like feelings that you could not deal with.
I feel like As You Are is actually such a good movie. Like I didn't know about it before watching. Like before um we were discussing about this podcast, but after watching it, it kind of low key changed my life. Like there's so many things in it that I kind of resonated with, but at the same time, there's so many things in it that made me feel like super conflicted. Like I love Jack. Jack is like my favorite character in the entire world. Like I don't even know how to express, like he's but like at the same time throughout the entire film, I don't know whether to I don't know how to feel. And it makes me feel so conflicted, but it's so well depicted in a way that I'm sort of feeling how they're feeling in that moment. And it just like evokes these strong emotions in me that I didn't know I would otherwise be feeling.
I think both movies make have a really good job on just making the viewer feel conflicted and like not knowing what to think or not knowing which side to pick necessarily. And I think they really do like make a good job like making like the viewers seem torn. Like on one side, like you would think you should side with them like because they're the main character, but on the other side, are they really doing what's morally right? Just because they're the main character, are they really doing like are they really justifiable? And it
Mm-mm.
just makes you like question your own moral compass as you like progress through the film. And I think they did an amazing job in both films. And yeah.
Okay, but overall, I think it was super interesting to analyze both of the films and like sort of see the themes reflected in different scenarios and different ways of life. So I'm super grateful to have been able to do this podcast with you.
Yes, thank you so much. Please join us in our next episode of Media Psyche. Thank you so much for listening to our rambles about As You Are and Parasite. Please tune into our next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.